Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Bud Light. It's a Bud Light meltdown. NFL, UFC, nothing can bring them back. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Yahoo Finance, Bud Light sales down nearly 30% year over year as rivals continue to climb. They're talking about 30% down nationally. The Bud Light brand has not bounced back, and it's not on an average basis, it's on a total basis. So in some areas, it's down 80%, as much as 90%. In some areas, it's only down 5% or 10%. But what that does is create tremendous problems for their distributors and for their manufacturing. It would be much better for them and easier to manage and deal with if it was off 30% across the country equally on average, but that's not the case. Also coming from Yahoo, Bud Light shares rise on $1 billion buyback. A couple of months ago, they announced they would be spending $1 billion to buy back their shares to try to get the share price back up. The price has gone back up. They've recovered a lot of the billions that they've lost, but at what cost? They spent $1 billion just in this one buyback. That's on top of another $3 billion that they spent buying back additional debt that they owe just to try to make the company look more viable. They also are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on promotion. I've tracked it on this channel, but there's no way to track all of it. It's nonstop. I'd have to do at least one video a day keeping track of it. From USA Today, Bud Light goes on offense with NFL campaign, hopes to overcome boycott, and their stock dip. This was from back in August. They did a massive promotion with the NFL. They have sponsorships with individual NFL players. That's not even getting to their next big spend, which is tens of millions of dollars on the Super Bowl. That's not going to work so well, though, because even as of now, we know from theconversation.com, Super Bowl ads, it's getting harder for commercials to score with consumers. Just because you spend tens of millions of dollars, even what they've already done buying back stock, more than $1 billion, it doesn't mean the company is going to bounce back, and the sales haven't even moved. They're also spending hundreds of millions of dollars with the UFC over the next few years to try to make Bud Light seem manly again. From the Wall Street Journal, how Bud Light won UFC back, global ambition meets a worldwide footprint. UFC did the deal because they want Bud Light's distribution, Anheuser-Busch's distribution in multiple countries, including China and South America and Africa. It's helpful to the UFC brand, except, of course, they're associated with Dylan Mulvaney. In their latest desperate move, coming from Breitbart, Bud Light tries partnering with canceled comedian Shane Gillis to get Mulvaney stink off brand. And from the Daily Mail, Bud Light U-turns on woke as it partners with comedian Shane Gillis, who is notorious for foul-mouthed, racist, and homophobic jokes, after campaign starring trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney sparked a boycott. Of course, when they say these jokes are racist and homophobic, we used to just call those jokes up until the woke agenda started to make it impossible for people to just laugh at each other, insult each other, and have a good time. Now that's called a hate crime. But as much as this comedian got himself in trouble and thrown off Saturday Night Live, they're trying to get as bad boy as they can over at Anheuser-Busch and do anything to get Dylan Mulvaney not associated with their brand anymore. Bud Light have seemingly turned their back on woke politics with a new partnership with comedian Shane Gillis following the dismal year for the brand. In a post on the brand's official Instagram account, they confirmed that Gillis was now part of their team. The comedian had previously been fired from Saturday Night Live after videos emerged of him using, quote, racial and homophobic slurs during a podcast in 2019. The decision to have Gillis on board with the brand comes less than 12 months after their disastrous partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Sales of the beer suffered due to the move, largely due to a boycott of the beer, with sales in the first 2 weeks of 2024 down 28.9% from the year before. Gillis shared images of himself inside the Anheuser-Busch brewery in St. Louis, Missouri, as well as next to one of the brand's iconic Clydesdale horses. Last year, Gillis had spoken about the ordeal with Mulvaney on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. The comedian said, quote, it's become a joke, and that is tough to overcome marketing-wise. It's tough to get people to order a Bud Light publicly because you're going to get made fun of. Of course you're going to get made fun of, because the beer was rebranded as the kind of beer for people that would be attracted to Dylan Mulvaney or would want to jump into a bathtub with Dylan Mulvaney. If you're seen drinking that beer, that's what people assume about you. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters that Bud Light managed to accomplish that with their ridiculous promotion without apologizing for their promotion, creating a social media firestorm, not responding to it for weeks, and still not apologizing for abusing their customer relationship by deliberately trying to inject woke politics into the brand. When I say deliberately, it really was deliberate. This was a great article from The Guardian. Panic and rash decision-making, ex-Bud Light staff on one of the biggest boycotts in U.S. history. In this article, they talk about deliberately and explicitly how the Bud Light marketing team decided they wanted to specifically, slowly but surely, plant the seeds of inclusion in their customer base. Because buying their beer wasn't enough. They wanted to own you. They wanted to control you. They wanted to program you. Here's what they said. The idea for Mulvaney's March Madness post came from a Bud Light team member who, quote, wanted to push and make change, says a former Anheuser-Busch employee. The team member was excited to, quote, slowly but surely plant the seeds of inclusion. The brand then went to Captivate, a top California-based influencer marketing agency. Captivate has since had to lay off employees. Anheuser-Busch has had to lay off employees. Glass plants have had to shut down, costing 600 jobs just at the glass plant. An aluminum plant has had to shut down. Multiple distributors have had to lay off their employees. Anheuser-Busch recently admitted to Bloomberg.com that they did lay off additional employees but won't give out the number that they've laid off. And Anheuser-Busch is facing a deadline at the end of February with 5,000 of their union employees who are threatening to go on strike because they demand job security in a new contract because, of course, the union employees are smart. They know their jobs are not secure. How could your job be secure when you lose 30% of the volume of anything that you're selling? Well, Bud Light was trying to advertise to the LGBT community, says a former employee of Captivate. They obviously wanted to pick an influencer who was part of that community. The actor and singer, Renee Rapp, was also considered, though it's unclear if those conversations ever got off the ground. Quote, I was surprised at the LGBT focus, given the Bud Light name, but I was interested to see where it would go from here. And so they contacted Mulvaney, and they did that with Mulvaney. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. And now they're being forced to live with the results that cost them in the billions of dollars. I'm not talking about stock value. I'm talking about $1 billion in stock buybacks. I'm talking about a couple of billion buying back debt, hundreds of millions just to the UFC alone for promotion, just to try to recover where they were, to try to get back that additional 30% of their business they've lost, but they're not getting that back. That's permanently gone. In the controversial promotion, Mulvaney posted a video on April 1st cracking open a Bud Light on Instagram. Mulvaney actually showed off a customized can, and this can was done with the permission and cooperation with the Anheuser-Busch Bud Light marketing team with Mulvaney's face on it. Bud Light was accused of alienating its traditional customer base by partnering with Mulvaney, which led many conservatives and normal people to boycott the brand. The backlash led to plummeting sales and Modelo Especial taking over as America's #1 beer brand. Anheuser-Busch lost $300 million in second quarter sales compared to the year before. And that's gross revenue. In addition to all of this spending on promotions and advertising and buying stock, there were massive promotions over the summer where they were offering their beer essentially for free, just so they could maintain shelf space that they've now since been losing. By December, sales of the beer had still not recovered despite the company teaming up with the NFL in an attempt to boost sales. In the 4 weeks ending December 9th, Bud Light's retail store sales were down 28% compared with the same period in 2022. The reaction to Gillis being announced as being partnered with the brand has been overwhelmingly positive on the Bud Light Instagram page. One person said, greatest marketing comeback of all time, while another said, this could suffice as an apology, or they could just actually apologize. It's not that difficult. They refuse to have respect for their customers, so they will never apologize. In 2019, Gillis was let go from his job at Saturday Night Live over his use of racial and homophobic slurs. Several clips surfaced in which the comedian used racist and homophobic slurs on numerous occasions, including on an episode of Matt and Shane's Secret podcast. Another clip emerged from a September 2018 podcast episode in which Gillis referred to people living in New York City's Chinatown as effing C's. He also mocked the Chinese accent and the language barrier in the video, saying, Chinatown's effing nuts. The translation between you and the waiter is just an effing hassle. It's like, can you? I'm pointing at it like this is the effing noodles. Gillis quickly issued an apology for 10 years of mostly bad comedy on Twitter. Quote, I'm a comedian who pushes boundaries. I sometimes miss. If you go through my 10 years of comedy, most of it bad, you're going to find a lot of bad misses. Quote, I'm happy to apologize to anyone who's actually offended by anything I've said. My intention is never to hurt anyone, but I am trying to be the best comedian I can be, and sometimes that requires risks. Well, that's a very serious thing for a comedian to say. We expect comedians to say outrageous things and absurd things and make us laugh. I don't know if he can help Bud Light. I don't see what he could possibly do for Bud Light unless he started to make a lot of public comments drinking Bud Light that were the kind of comments that got him fired from Saturday Night Live. But you can't imagine that Anheuser-Busch is going to allow him to do that. So I don't know what exactly we can expect. I don't see how anything can possibly save Bud Light. I don't see how they can change the incredibly creepy perception they've given of their brand by doing an incredibly creepy thing. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.